And here we are, we'll return to the road trip project. This is day two. In day two, we're going to calculate how much it costs to drive different vehicles that we may potentially rent. And we're also going to calculate the fuel required. While we're doing this, using a proportion and the cross product. So up to this point, you should have planned your trip, actually mapped it out, measured each leg, and then rounded it to the nearest quarter inch. Once you did that, you found out that the scale was 1 inch is 300 miles, so that's a ratio we're going to use a lot. And you use that in order to calculate the distances between the different cities. So set up a proportion, and then by using cross product, and these all turned out quite easy because the one particular ratio was 1 over 300. So when we multiplied through, there's 1 times x is x. So it wound up being this one little multiplication problem. But you had to do this for all your cities. I did it for mine in order to get the total distance traveled for the whole trip. In my case, I got 5,250 miles. And we're going to use that value right now. So we have this direction here that tells us calculate how much it would cost to drive each vehicle during your summer road trip. Use the information on the front of this piece of paper to create a proportion. So we're definitely going to create a proportion. And they are referring to these possible vehicles that you could take on your trip. Each one, I'm sure, has certain advantages over others. I mean, who wouldn't want to drive a Ford Mustang? That would be awesome. Although there's definitely something to be said about driving a Tahoe. If you wanted to save money, though, of course, you're going to go with a smart car. But man, would I want to drive around the entire country in a little dinky thing like that? No. But what we need to do is we need to set up some proportions to find out how much it's going to cost to drive each of these. And we notice that the way this table is set up is they give us a cost for each car for driving 25 miles. So the Ford Mustang costs $4.26 to drive 25 miles. Smart car would cost $2.90 to drive 25 miles. So we see our ratio here is going to be the cost per mile. So let's set this up. And conveniently, they've got this table here. And the Ford, let's first figure out what the cost is going to be for me to drive on my trip, the Ford Mustang. And the proportion. So I'm going to want to use the cost per mile. And according to this, it's telling me it takes $4.26 to drive 25 miles. The question is how much will it cost? I don't know, to drive mine. My trip. And my trip is 5,250 miles. So there's my proportion. Now we can solve it using cross product. So I'll have to go like this, and I have 25 times x is going to be equal to, for this value here, times 5,250. Okay, now I have a one-step equation here, so I'm going to divide both sides by 25. Now I'm going to whip out my trusty calculator, and I am going to go ahead and I'm going to plug in the values here. So what do I have? I have, on the left side of my equal sign, 25 divided by 25 is 1. Keep my equal signs lined up, and so I'm left with the x. On the right side, I have to plug in this. So I have 4 and 2600ths times 5,250 divided by 25. That gives me $894.06. So it looks like the cost here is going to be $894.06. And so that's what my answer is. So as far as cost goes, since we're talking money now, it'll be $894.60 in order for me to take the Ford Mustang on this particular trip. Whereas if it was the Smart Car, that costs $2.90 in order to go 25 miles. And so how much will it cost in order to go the 5,250? So you can see the form of the equation is going to repeat itself. I'll do my cross product. 25x is equal to 290 times the 5,250. Again, I'll have to divide both sides by 25. 25 divided by 25 is just 1, and 1 times x is x. And now I'll go ahead and punch this in. So of course you're going to continue this for all the vehicles. So once we're done with this, now we have to calculate how much fuel will be required to drive each vehicle during the summer road trip. So we're going to come back to here, and we're going to use this. And again, I'll just do the Ford Mustang again. The Ford Mustang, you fill in my little table. So in the case of the Ford Mustang, and this time I need to know how many gallons it is for the number of miles I'm driving. So my ratio is going to be the gallons over miles. So that's gallons over miles. So I know from what they give me here that it takes 1 900 gallons to drive 25 miles. So it takes 1 900 gallons to drive 25 miles. The question is, how much gas will it take to drive 5,250 miles? Doesn't this look suspiciously familiar? I'll use the cross product one more time. And I have 25x is equal to 1 900 times 5,250. Divide both sides by 25. And again, I will have to get out to my calculator to clear things. And this time, I have 1 900 times 5,250. And I'm going to divide that by 25. This is telling me it's going to take 228 and 9/10 gallons in order to take the Ford Mustang on this trip. That's so close I could round that to 229 gallons. That's how much fuel required. And I'll just repeat this process for all the different vehicles. Again, since the fuel, I am doing gallons per mile. That is my ratio. Hope this helps. You guys have a fun time and work diligently and get it done.